All right. Good morning. So we're going to start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga and then refuge and bodhicitta as a way of correcting our motivation. From the heart of the savior of the 100 deities of the Shita on the peak of cloud resembling clump of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient Losam Drakpa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit from a mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind is the intelligence that understands the full extent of object to be known. Your holy speech with its action and explanation is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you, while meaningful to see, hear, and remember, are prostrate. Pleasant drinking water of various flowers, fragrant incenses, lights, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I've collected from beginning this time, I confess each and every one with fervor and regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the 8 worldly concerns. Savior, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect, pure, holy gurus from the billion clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the Dhammakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dhamma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of the perfect, pure Losam Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Sa shi pe ki jun shi me to tam ri ram ling shi ni de kyen pa di sangye shindu mikte wa idroku namda shin la chupasho. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his 2 sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious and Losam Drakpa with the morality of eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplish the yoga of the 2 stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idang Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beings of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one, enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of the tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. So we're going to do the 5-line Miktema in page 13. Bimete wete chechen rezi, jime kembe wambo jampe yan, dupu malo jomte sanweda, kanchen kembe tsugen tsongkapa, losan drope shabla sowade. Bimete wete chechen rezi, jime kembe wambo jampe yan, dupu malo jomte sanweda, kanchen kembe tsugen tsongkapa, losan drope shabla sowade. Bimete wete chechen rezi, jime kembe wambo jampe yan, dupu malo jomte sanweda, kanchen kembe tsugen Losandra Peshavla Sovade
Sanji Chodam Soji Chonala Chancho Bardu Dami Kyamsuchi Dagi Chunshiki Betsonagi Drola Penche Sangye Rupa Sho Sanji Chodan Tsoki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dami Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishiki Betsonan Dola Benji Sangi Ruparasho Sanji Chodan Tsoki Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dami Kyapsuchi Dagi Chishiki Betsonan Dola Benji Sangi Ruparasho Kanki tuzinyi zone tawa tamche pambi chere tambi chun tenze kwadam kela chanze lo. Mone diwa. Nanzi kazi tsamjir tsamdine ma. Shushayin tsamdi tsawi sajendo di. Gyamdri penyo la ya namba gyeg nani. Sachi sumba di sari. Penyo namba gyeg nani. Hun sabi ledrup nam. Sabshin seban girwa sayad re. Sumba habtus gyamdru dikba tabu dimbi kawsu. 파기 도주 배치와 시송의 파도 기원 기회 하이비 겸주 제바들 마지봤다고.
We've been looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's middling presentation of this test of the path of enlightenment, and currently we're looking at the topic of going for refuge. Now, in the previous session, we started to look at the benefits of going for refuge, and of the 8 qualities or benefits of going for refuge, we've covered 2, and today we're going to pick up from the 3rd one. So we spoke about how it is a measure of being Buddhist. We spoke about it is the basis of all vows, right? So refuge is the measure of being Buddhist, and it's also the basis of all vows. And today we're going to pick up on this section that says the karmic obscurations accumulated previously are reduced and exhausted. Now, Lama Tsongkhapa says that in the context of showing that bad actions are purified by going for refuge, the Compendium of Training says here, one must present the edifying story of the pig as an illustration.
Terda da manje da kingi gire sro da digba tags lavkala. Ani kyamru chen digba tags che tagyu digba di rangunzin che madunan ani digba kanz tagyu emedi da khaburo asra. Is tagyu digba sayadi zu ani jebu dunga nyon sheki dunga jejeki ka leon chawajelaya digba sigdos ra digba ra.
So here this section refers to bad actions, or what we call negativities. So it says that through going for refuge, negativities come to be purified. But then still, without identifying negativities for being what they are, in a sense that without being able to identify what makes a negativity become negativity, will be difficult to think that they will become purified. So in general, when we identify what makes a certain action to be a negative action, we do that from the viewpoint of the result that it brings forward. So a negative action produces suffering. So it is an activity, it is a karma, which means that it is an action that brings forth suffering. This is a negative action. This is what here Lama Tsongkhapa calls a bad action.
La dinza da chok chigni xiaondi digbas lagore chok chigni xiaondi migiwe les ra wa dindri songdos da ani digbas nandra migiwe les nandra di chikpa ro chig resha da dinza da di kandasini yungore slaondi ani di le pigi chawa di ra ani sozugi chawa pigi di kolong la ya ani chakdang monsam dan redingi ani chawa cheba na ani chawa di chebala teni ani maung balaya susu tolaya ani mindibi dunghar mambu chik ani yongyagi gyuchadrugu yanza ta di pa meba soma toba na ani ngazu dunghan dugu meba yanza mindigi dungha yongyagi ta nyanga chimbu chadru yanza injimi digba tawa chego gres ro digba di har chejabi chawa digi ani chik nibada masuna sabenda masuna shashaba di 파 nume soya chik 돌아요. 로고르다 님의 가르치는 님의 자와 가르칠 때는 님의 제도를 쓰라고나. 겸는 군조선이야. 샘띵이 겸도 제도바나. 아니 자와디 님의도 땅토 그랬어. 어디서 거랬어?
So then when we speak about those actions, from one perspective, we call them negativities, or from a different perspective, we call them non-virtuous actions. But we coming down on the same point. We consider calling them negativities or calling them non-virtuous at the end is getting at the same point. They're the same. What we're referring to are those actions which are negative, and you might wonder what makes an action be a negative action. Well, it is from the point of view of the motivation that is involved with performing that action. So if the motivation is involved with one of the three poisonous states of mind, anger, attachment, or ignorance, it means that this motivation is making the action be a negative action, as it is bringing forth unwished for suffering. Since it produces unsought suffering due to being involved with one of those motivations, we call that a negative action. And as such, those things that we do not wish for, those sufferings, as for us, we regard them as being very dangerous. We need to purify them. And to purify them would mean that we make the efficacy of those actions become nullified. So we look at the potentials of those negative actions, the seeds of those negative actions, and we make those potentials be incapacitated. So by going for refuge to the three jewels, we're making the potentials of those negative actions become incapacitated.
들다 아니 딘디디 가서다 다 군조송이야 겹스 드로니 디 컨디션 타그레세 디 컨디션 타그레스 다 도바 용촉으로서 컨디션 타그레스 라온디 디바디 아니 싹당 그름바디야 아니 찬상직 아니 베나가줄 겹템보 산지 군조기 아니 산지 좀된 디기 아니 디바 싹당 디야 찬상직 송요레스 아니 디바디 파 장당 디야 름바 찬상직 된 요반자 탑 찬상직 된 요반자 산길라 샘띵니 야체 야탐바 이치 레투바이나 강송바디 라렌 따레지 용그러 디따바이나 아니 디바 다투거러스 진짜 아니 베나 산지 건줄라 야잡소니 디바 다당 름바디 산지가 신 줍수 디토니 타토는 디토는 로고도 스라.
So then you might wonder, how is it that refuge, going for refuge in the three objects of refuge, purifies our negative actions? Well, to be able to think about it, we need to look at the way that we accumulate negative actions. So for instance, the Buddha taught, first of all, the way that we accumulate negative actions, but also the Buddha taught the way to purify those negative actions. So by going for refuge, the first object of refuge, the Buddha, we then develop this heartfelt faith in the Buddha. We heed the advice of the Buddha. We take into account the teachings of the Buddha, and as much as we can, we act or we behave in a way that accords with the teachings of the Buddha. And as such, that becomes a purifying force for negative actions.
자, 베나 난주 깨와 토마 메바니 단다 파르다 깨와 탐 메바 랑 여러와스. 깨와 간드스 비 깨와 제와 잡아이네야. 안간주 동하디 가드이네 용데야디 아니 동 아니 비 동하르 그 아니 디바 메기베기 레디 고만쳐바치 아니 레 사샤유디 파 타바치즈디 마시비 왕기 다 mendebi donga todu pabdegi yobadita 원전다 무여레스로 딘즈다 디 데바 사우스 데바 타수기 람땡에 될야 야샤 야타마 이시체바이나 디톤은 드바이나 아니 데 데바 타야치 용구요레스.
We've already taken countless rebirths since time without beginning and up until now. And we change states of rebirth in those myriad states of rebirth that we've already been to. And yet we can see that in all of those states, we still end up experiencing suffering. And the cause of those suffering is karma. But through not being able to identify the cause of suffering being karma, without understanding the way to purify those negative actions, we have been experiencing unsought suffering. Unsought suffering befalls upon us. But then if we develop trust in the teachings of the Buddha with respect to the way that we accumulate such negative actions and the way that negative actions are purified, we can bring those negative actions done before to a state of purification.
These are the less body xiaondi nyumu toksum gwangi ro nyumun gwangi pena chagdang gwangi nganzu the chawadama de chigiyabadi nganzu nyonyo togros chagdang ki gyudi mari walaten mishi mombalaten ani chagdang ki yabadi tuzu rimbadi chansang chikson yores the dini the di taksul di nimbu tensu dia ani zawa mari walaya nimbu tensu mari bi nimbu sayadi ani dhameba sayadi the tombani kanji ani denshi thone ani lam drozu rimba ro ani degba taksu rimba samalo ani denshi thone ngonshin goyaji chagdo dinza ani the gyundeng ganzu the samlo tangsa yana menadi sanji chu gendun somlaya kyabsu drosavi jelaya kyab sone pigilaya bezun chesa di ani demba shigi landur kanda ime tolaya da lojong chia di kicheshu di chagwasares ro.
So with respect to those negative actions, we become informed about the stages by which we end up accumulating those negative actions. When we look at the stages by which we end up accumulating those negative actions, we begin with afflictive states of mind, the three poisons: anger, attachment, and ignorance. So if we examine a mind, we can certainly come to see how a mind is governed by anger or attachment and so forth. We can come to know that. And we can also see that the rising depends upon ignorance. And all of that was taught by the Buddha, by the teachings of the Buddha, including the way of purifying those negative actions, beginning with, again, the steps of purification when we begin with those afflictive states of mind. In order to purify them, what we need to purify is anger and attachment, which are based on ignorance. So which means that we need to deal with ignorance. And the way to purify ignorance is through the development of wisdom that realizes emptiness. And in order to do it, therefore, what we need to develop is an understanding of the four truths. So when we look at the four truths as taught by the Buddha, we look at an explanation of, on one hand, the way that we accumulate such actions, and on the other hand, the way that we purify them. That was taught by the Buddha. And therefore, when we go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, we then see that for us, an important point to apply to our stages of practice is to begin with studying properly what we need to take up and what we need to cast aside with respect to the four truths.
Dinza sanji chu sayadi dembashi shina sanji chu shimba dembashi mashina sanji chu di che mashi ya nezu chadro dos the sanji chu sayadi yang taba yima india ani dembashi pigilaya dembashi tolaya shimju chechini ani drogoya chikro dembashi tola shimju chi dembashi ngoju trabana ani sanji chu maches labayna ya ani tsawani sha matuyachi ro ani dembashi ngo matrabayna ani the karma khachina ya chuchi machine chawro o dindiji dembashi di nanga shojle ani tukdeshas ro tukdeshas.
Which means that to know how to practice the Buddha Dhamma depends upon our knowledge of the four truths. And without the knowledge of the four truths, we will not know how to put the Buddha Dhamma into practice. And in order to know the four truths, to understand them, we need to analyze them, we need to investigate them. And if we do so, even if someone tells us, don't do that, don't practice the Buddha Dharma through becoming informed about the four truths, we will not desist from the practice of the Buddha Dharma. So for us, it's crucial. It's so important to make sure that as much as we can, we develop our understanding of the four truths.
다디마 지글로자 간다 산지 캡동와 대다 nganrum drumingur 미일륜 네 파니스 대달하이 류토보 시 최단 겐돌라야 대달 송소스
I'm wondering, can you see that clearly, or it's better, or should I increase the font? Can you read it? All right. So we read through the first. Okay. So we read through the first couple of paragraphs in this section. Then, as the companion of training says, here one must present the edifying story of the pig as an illustration. Lamrim Tsongkhapa says a god who was about to be reborn as a pig by going for refuge was not born as one. It further states those who have gone for refuge to the Buddha will not go to the Lord rebirths. They give up their human body and obtain that of a god. Something similar is stated regarding the Dharma and the Sangha.
다다가다 choose 라운디 조 고람니 될야 고비 템바세디 뉴무 세비 세바티 칼덴 토그레 다음에 봐 웃음 더비 이시 될땐 토건스다 딩이디 추응어레스 델라야 이지지 델라야 캡주 델라야 타치드 레데 제바이나 아니 다음에 봐 더비 이시디 랑귤레 게요 바치 디 더기 뉴무세 요바인자 아니 딕바 타그르세디 다가라라스 다 겐든 콘조디야 다음에 뭐 웃음 더비 이시디 비기 다음에 더비 이시 냠슬렘발레 때니 다음에 웃음 더딩 게부진사 딘디질이야 레데체체니 안 딜이야 람든신 드바이나 아니 수즈길이야 다음에 더비 아니 셰럽기 남주기 셰럽기지니 아니 뉴무세 아니 딕바파야치 뜻이 야제야 다음에 용거를 왔어.
So it refers here to not only refuge in the Buddha, but also refuge in the Dharma and the Sangha. So when we take refuge in the Dharma, the main thing that we take refuge in is true paths and true cessations. This is the main Dharma. All right, so the main Dharma, the main portion of the Dharma constitutes of true paths and true cessations. True cessations, which are the elimination of afflictive states of mind. And to eliminate afflictive states of mind, we need to develop an exalted knowledge that realizes selflessness. So we develop trust in wisdom. We develop trust in the development of exalted knowledge that realizes selflessness. We take refuge in that. We find that our sole sense of reliance is on wisdom, on that exalted knowledge that realizes selflessness. And through that, we follow the stages for the development of wisdom that realizes selflessness. So then we use that in order to purify our negative actions, to eliminate our afflictive states of mind. And through practicing in stages that lead to the development of wisdom, at some point we will be led to the development of the perceptual realization of selflessness. We'll generate wisdom that perceptually realizes that, and that will be the force that will eliminate our afflictive states of mind, that will purify negative actions.
다들에서 드네 시바 소놈 갸치부 소그레스 로 군주섬라야 캡스 드와이나 소놈 갸치부 소그레스 티레 다 소놈 갸치부 소그레스 소놈 디카레스 로 다디 티라다 싱해지기 신고를 미싱해지기 다 소놈 갸치부 소스 소놈 디카리나선 디 도바 용거레스 로.
So then the next point, number 4, the fourth quality of going for refuge is one accumulates vast merit. So then you might wonder, in what way do I accumulate vast merit? What way, in what fashion does my going for refuge help me to accumulate merit?
레당안주 남주 용달라야 소디 첨부스라 온디 직 아니 기부로 총와이나다 소놈 지고라스라 베나 동야 신부로지라나 nga 소디 쇼레스로 데사 기부로지라나 내가 나사지 마요나 소놈 첨부스데 데디 지당 소놈 소놈 인기레스 이내야 갑디기 소놈디 아니 대자 마임바 로 비기 대자 마임바 타바드 탐진 김비 컴포토비아기 규 종이 시바기 샤와 니버질이야 아니 소놈 세그두스.
So the word for merit is used in Buddhist terminology in a variety of ways. So it is also often linked up with being successful in a particular thing or having everything going well for you. So in Tibetan language, for example, it is said that when, for example, you're able to enjoy yourself, you sit somewhere, you're very relaxed, you're having a drink of something, you say, sometimes you say that you have quite a lot of merit, or you're lucky, or your living conditions are comfortable, you're healthy. It means that you're lucky or you have merit. But merit is not just limited to that. Here, when we look at the accumulation of vast merit, we refer to the accumulation of causes for liberation and omniscience, to those potentials for the development of liberation and the state of Buddhahood.
데르다디 소놈 사원디 다 샘라야 가와기에치키 로 가와 빠메기에치 수수 소놈 첨보레 삼나 아니 베기 샘라야 가와치 레기도 디난신기 베기 소놈 라보치지 싸그 여버치 소르투나 다 가와 캬버친지 용야디 메 먹어버려스 딘자 다디 용야라야 덴시기 토네 덴바시 토네 타와드 탐진 김비 람 지여다 메세티 타바드 탐지 김비 공부 여다 메세티야 덴시 토네 제버치 거야지 로 덴시 토네 타바드 탐지 김비 공부 여버치 피길이야 아니 보 투비 갑둘라 로 줍 투비 갑둘라 다디 여버 타치 투비 갑둘라야 다 타바드 탐지 김비 공부 토비 공방 토비기 귤드야기 자와지 정말나 아니 샘나노라야 남주 징아주 칼라소르 데사소르 딘디 자비기 가나마이와 가나 빠메치 로 샘라야 시데 빠메치 용구여서레스 로
Which means that through merit you create this mental joy. Merit, you could say, that also creates this mental unhappiness. So if you think that I'm now accumulating vast amount of merit, needless to say that it will make your mind happy. Through practicing independence upon the four truths, we are led to the states of liberation and the state of Buddhahood. And if you wonder, can I attain the state of liberation? Can I attain the state of omniscience? They can be attained through, we can see that we can attain them through checking out, through assessing the four truths. We become then determined to attain the state of liberation or the state of enlightenment when we see that it is possible to attain those states, and that understanding comes from understanding the four truths. So if you then think that I can attain the state of liberation, I can attain the state of enlightenment, then when we create the causes for attaining those stages, our mind is filled with great joy. So the joy that we develop when we create the causes for liberation or the causes for Buddhahood is not just a simple joy. It's not like the joy that we get when we have delicious food or when we enjoy really comfortable living conditions. The joy is much greater. It is the joy in which we understand that here we are assembling the causes for liberation and enlightenment.
딘자다 타와드 탐지 김비 공부 두야기 규직 사토바나 다디 소놈 레스 다딜리스 다디 소놈 디타 소놈 디 첨부 쇼지레스라 파신 디발레 캡송 소놈 수요나 감좀 디안 헤드총 잠수 첨부 주의들 표기체버 샤면이 셰솜바 따로스 다딘리진 그레스
So then looking at this section, the Compendium of the Perfections says, if the merit of having gone for refuge took shape, even these three realms would be too small a container. The water in the great oceans can never be measured in handfuls. Which means that here, when we look at merit, we refer to merit as being the causes for liberation and enlightenment. And it's such vast merit, which means that we're creating those massive causes for liberation and enlightenment. And it says, if the merit of having gone for refuge took shape, even these three realms would be too small a container. The water in the great oceans can never be measured in handfuls.
Di hami shibar chawos. Ngama tanda ani sumbi kawliya ani kunjo sumliya kyab soni ani digba tagris tagdang chiya dina shingi ani del deni shingris ro teti chikbaris.
Then the fifth benefit says, one does not fall into the low rebates. One should understand this from the above. So, for example, in the third benefit of going for refuge, we said that negative actions will become purified. So it is similar to that. If you purify negative actions, it means that you will also not fall into miserable states of existence.
Derida gazna bigi sem chagdam monsongi shawand masomba. Sanji 이 강송비기 아니 최대 라렌 수전 따지네 아니 저 견딘 컨트롤에 때는 들어와이나 아니 nganrukiegi gychansan kadroindi 아니 nganrukiesa chi yomarasra siushures.
If we put the Dhamma into practice and through that we put a stop to anger, attachment, and ignorance, if we put a stop to the causes of falling into miserable states of existence, as this section says, they will not come to pass.
And Tubadi, Medamamangi Tsumarse, Parchik Tsumarse, Medamamangi Parchik Mutsuadita, Kole Laures. Kole Laures.
Now, the sixth benefit of going for refuge says that one is not harmed by human and non-human hindrances, in that they will not pose obstacles for you. This is easy to understand, as Lama Tsongkhapa says.
Terda, Takandashi Kole Laures, the Ganzola Kokalaka Pedos, Lama Tsongkhapa Tara Shuya, and Ganzo Kokalaka Pedo Kuchi, Seuj Son Roches, Lavu Kesaros.
Here, Lama Tsongkhapa says it's easy to understand, but still for us it might not be that easy. So if we were to meet Lama Tsongkhapa in person, we'd say, please give me an explanation how going for refuge means that you will not be harmed by humans and non-human hindrances.
That's all the Medamimangi and Parche Tsubasena, Parche Yonya di, so di Susula Rally Devachi, Susugi Semlaya, Namto Kanchi. Chagdang Kani, Yobaina, any Sutta Tubaina, Parchete Imbadoch, Sutta Tubaina, any Tamandivach, Kansan Susu Sam Dibi, the Ramakuni, Shawan the Chodenza, Tingudos, Tapi Javi Kunjusomaya, Tenchini, and Sam di Chagdang Shawan the Mondrova, and it read the Kaptushan Denshi Yamlin Tolian, Jutubana, and it suit the Tebaina, Susu Sam Trok Tumaras, Sam Tromatu di, and it Dunga Yungumaris, Kanji, Dunga Mayana, Parchi Mevaris, Midamangi Parchi Matsuaris, the Dirichi, some tango was it is.
When this section says one is not harmed by humans and non-human hindrances or obstacles, well, to be susceptible to obstacles, to disturbances, mainly depends upon us. In that if our mind is discursive, if it is full of those conceptions involving anger and attachment and so forth, whoever we're going to meet, wherever we're going to be, we're going to face difficulties and hindrances. If our mind is controlled by those states of mind, wherever we are, there will be difficulties for us. It will be difficult for us because we will not have control over our mind. Our mind will be controlled by anger and attachment. Whereas if the mind is not controlled by anger and attachment, which means that if you have taken up into your practice those principles based on the 4 truths, whoever you're going to meet, your mind is not going to be disturbed. Your mind is not going to be agitated, and therefore you'll not be harmed by humans and non-human hindrances.
Terda dombadi chisamba tamji druba said. Chisamba tamji druba yungures.
Now the 7th benefit is one accomplishes everything one wishes.
Terda kunju samlaya kyab songbayna, kunju samlaya kyab song lawandi, kunju samlaya ta chigdu gyacha gyatamba pigi yichi cheni medamasuna kala nyambayna, ani chisamba tamji drugures.
One accomplishes everything one wishes in that if you go for refuge to the 3 jewels and you have complete trust, 100% trust in what those 3 jewels are laying out for you, it says that you will accomplish whatever you seek.
Tirida pigi kyab tambo sanji, kyab nguchu, kyab tribidado, ani gendun kunjolaya tembayina, ani sam goyachik sam chugrimado, sam goyachik sam chugmaros, sam dan chugmaros, taro kar drub goyachik yona digi drubi tabdilab drub mugu tolaya, ani chawachiyat ka yondigi, ta drub goyadi tagdan druyachik yungures, ko tablam nyesenza, ta ding anzu machi wikalaya, ani pena, ani chagdan monsamgi yongsu kante wikalaya, ani muguya janjang samya mato, goya jisa mato na, ani samba tamjin drub sayadi yungu marawasra.
For going for refuge to the 3 objects of refuge, to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and taking them to heart. For example, when we go for refuge to the Sangha, we're training in developing certain ways of thinking in which we think in a way that accords with what we ought to do. Or we give up entertaining thoughts or conceptions about things that we should not get involved with. This is what we put into our practice. So when our mind is completely out of control, when it is completely full of anger, attachment, and anger, we end up thinking, conceiving, being busy with things that are of no use to us, no purpose to us. So here when we look at going for refuge to the 3 jewels on the bottom of our heart, like for example, going for refuge to the Sangha, we think of putting it properly into practice in training a mind, making a mind busy with what we ought to do rather than with the things that we ought not to do.
Rebena manzugi ta tadugi ra goya di ngansamalo chigyurge dewa di nganzu goya di dewa derwas mugu ya dunga derwas tinza da nganzu goju dewa drup mashiba da mugu ju dunga se mashiba na ani chisam drup se di yung maras da goju dewa drup dang tap chansan jik su dengo reslavdi sanjam den digita tab den yabadi be sevures ra dinani pigi devi zo ani sem devati yigi deva drupdanti yigi dunga sedan yigi deva khaldeni yungudu dunga khaldeni yungudu z sama be sev se ya chin temba inza o tela ya khal nyenchi tela ten drobaina ani sambi devati druptugres drugres.
Particularly here, at the end, what we wish for is happiness, and we wish for no suffering, no pain. But we do not know precisely how to accomplish the happiness that we seek and to eliminate the suffering that we do not seek. But then the Buddha taught the way to cultivate the causes for happiness and to eliminate suffering. So through going for refuge to the 3 objects of refuge, if we put it into practice, we then get what we want, as this 7th benefit says. One accomplishes everything one wishes, in that we become learned with respect to the causes for happiness and the cause of suffering. We accomplish the cause of happiness and we remove the causes for suffering. In that sense, we accomplish everything that we wish for.
It
says, whatever Dharma activity you engage in, if at the beginning you make offerings to the 3 jewels, go for refuge and supplicate them, it will easily be accomplished.
Now the
8th benefit says one swiftly attains Buddhahood. One swiftly attains Buddhahood. The elimination of all faults and the development of all qualities is what we regard as the state of Buddhahood. So how do you attain that state in which you have eliminated all faults and have developed all positive qualities? Well, you begin with going for refuge to the 3 jewels.
Ani chawa kaso sen digi chawa tindiji ani shawan sonchine ani mukhambale ya kyurni nyumu pan tuyor mar do nyumu pan gi mebada nyumu de segi mebaji mares ta di khal den yungures lawndi konjoson la ya nyini ro ani tebachi yobayna keram mukhambadi pan dogres chechela ya mukhambadi Chawa shamba lu tani chu chi yagi kokob ragres ti rabayna ani nimu pa matu ya zaw ni yomaris yudu sanja tugres.
Without reducing our afflictive states of mind, without abandoning our anger, attachment, and ignorance, poisonous states of mind, we will get no freedom. We still find ourselves in situations where we have no freedoms, no leisures. So when we become completely caught up with the activities, focusing with activities that focus on this lifetime only, when we're completely caught up in that state, we find that we have no freedom. And it's not that we're incapable of attaining the state of enlightenment. It's not that the state of enlightenment cannot be accomplished. We can attain the state of enlightenment, it can be accomplished. And for that, we need to have trust in our ability to do so. So if we develop trust, if we develop faith that those states are possible, we'll then find the time to accomplish what we need to do, to practice what we need to do in order to become Buddha. We'll find the opportunities for gaining the freedoms or the leisures which are needed in order to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Radanganzugi pigi chu chelong meba ani tsedi gi khoni tolaya samdani ani tsedi zodo gorasra tsedi le samdani tsedi zodo digi ani kyawachima pigi chi yagbu jingya gi gyukhara samerida 용기요 말딘 두 셴이 아니 코알람 코디기 연자 뭐컴비 네 딘디지 코알람 코디기 요바디 아니 에따 본토 그레스 라 생기 슈발레 데비 뭐컴 뽕안겨 셰송 받다 다와 캬발지 니지 캬브단 잘니 람 캬발지나 lovla 데네 림보 모토바 산게오 데다비 페요 템비 녜렌숨 쳔렌숨 캬므르 차오스.
So if we find ourselves in situations in which we have no time, no leisure to put it into practice, if we are completely caught up with affairs that belong to this lifetime only, our life will be exhausted in the pursuit of affairs of this life without creating the causes for good states of rebirth in the future, so that we will continue to revolve in cyclic existence without having freedom, without having leisure. But if we then make sure that that does not happen, we can swiftly accumulate the causes for attaining the state of Buddhahood, so that those afflictive states of mind can be eliminated, they will be eliminated. So it says in the question of the Line Sutra, through faith, you will abandon the leisureless states. Accordingly, you will gain the special freedoms, and having found refuge, tread in a special path. Thus, you will become a Buddha without much delay. Recollecting these kind of benefits, you should go for refuge 3 times in the day and 3 times at night. Yeah. So there are a couple of questions here with respect to this. So beginning with Karen, who says, so the word merit, are we discussing equate to grace in Christianity? Well, I don't know what the meaning of grace is in Christianity. I mean, the particular meaning, and I imagine that Geshe also doesn't know what grace is in Christianity. I guess this is pretty, sorry, so grace comes? So grace comes from God, yeah. All right. So grace is like a blessing from God. All right. So, it's like walking with God. I'm just repeating it for the people that are at home. So, so you said that kind of from what you know of Christianity, it's like, walking with God, or relying upon God, particularly when you have challenging time or difficult time. So I guess that it's like seeking inspiration. Okay, having the faith or the trust that God will take you on during those difficult times and so forth. Dila the sonam se the ishi chulola den the tik den dawachi reves nge tik di tunda kare min ngandi shuchu genyo mechan tik di tunda kare min how we mess kiran yampeje hako samares line. So the indicator grace den the chilagerwa. 아니 돈이기 그레시아 데 직된고 바보던데 제수 수연라 덴데 티기레스 친랍다고 치 레슨라기도 양 카시칼라기레스나 케시 둥에 깡에 탑교보 타마디바치 때와이나 아니 화군주돌라 산로 따와이나 대바치 제와이나 아니 화군주기 소라 파체 세기레 파체 메바 속에레 스탠드직 인그레사 진선 소남 단디 그레스 디직 파르베스 치마마레스 그치기도
대체상 단단 남비 쇼레야 셰데 소놈디 단지시워디 라 뉴무세비게 세바 토베 귤드야 경콘세 연den콘den기 아니 산지 토베 귤드야 질이야 아니 소놈세고레스 로 소놈세고레스.
At least when we look at merit from a Buddhist perspective, merit is what we call those things that bring about the elimination of the afflictions. We call them merit, which means that they are the causes that bring about the elimination of anger, attachment, and ignorance in our own mind stream. This is what brings about the completion of all positive qualities. This is what we call merit.
Dire den sonum dian ji sosu drugo ya ji remado ani me shemba ji ki nganzula ji kala teba na shingi chu ani che sha yu dindi ji sungu yo mares ro sangi gi tab chso tab di ani sosu gi bena gegin gi bugula ya lobjung loba de chigban ro lobjung lobchik chen undi gi bugu di yaw cha da ma cha di bugu korang lobjung zundrile ya rale deba an di gyabgyur pamigi labsha o ditsu ni ya rale deba di nanshin chi sangi nganzula ya ani lobtik na ani di roba gendu konjo chen dus roba ina ani rotu ya sonam segdos ro sonam segores.
But to eliminate our afflictive states of mind, we need to put it into practice. We need for ourselves to accumulate to accomplish that merit. So rather than thinking that this merit can be given to us by someone else, it's like, for example, sometimes we might receive a plate of food or some assistance, rather than thinking that merit is handed over. Merit is something that we ourselves need to create. So the Buddha taught us the way to do it. Just like you can say that the Buddha is like a teacher that teaches a classroom. So the Buddha taught the ways to accumulate merit. We put it into practice, and in so doing, we also rely upon the assistance of the Sangha, and through that, we ourselves accumulate the merit.
nang marwas kansan nganzul tsewa yorwas ro susu phamigi ugudeliya tsewa khadzu yoba titsugi karin yaga de tek dos dinansing duga de tek marwas dug tek marwas ro did chig baris ro inaya sangi gi tab tyan mado ani shamba ani susu bezun chigo dos dinza ta susu bezun chingin gi niba yakshudi mela yoba inza 아니 미iten디 믹스기 초도 기와 쓰고야 돼 디차기도 왔어.
So we don't regard merit as something that is given to us, like for example by the Buddha. So if had it been the case that the Buddha would be that person that would give us merit or that will bestow merit upon us, it would be like, you could say something like a parent, in that a parent would only mean good. A loving parent would only mean good for the child. Do not give them anything that is bad, not do anything that is negative, but the sole behavior of a loving parent would be a good behavior. So here when we think of this sense of care that a Buddha extends to living being, Buddha has love and care for living beings, and in such the Buddha means only good for living beings, but the way that the Buddha then acts for others is through teaching them the methods for accumulating merit. And we need to then put an effort. We need to then consider what we need to do. We need to put effort into our training in order to amass the merit that will result in the accomplishment of all positive qualities, to reduce the negative qualities that we have and to develop positive qualities.
아니 다완이 있어야지 로 신디기 차와치고 질라야 셴데야 마임바 아니 깨와 치마니 치마 어딘지 라파 상당 두고 그랬어 가진 돌 뒤나왜 미견 툰동 마임바 타르불라바 때투바나 아니 소수 틀려 여바디 고 아니 디 셔라야 통로야지 로 산이기 된다 상당 두바나 안 데리 직도 그러왔어 안 데리기 배 다지 닝군 칼라서를 찍보지라야 상단이 아니 산이 돌 상마당에나 년가 차그러 왔어 어디 소리지 송고레스타 간지.
Now looking at what we've covered in the last section, it says, accordingly, you will gain the special freedoms and having found refuge, train in a special path, which means that we develop a long-term approach. If we use the freedom stuff we have, those states of leisure stuff we have, not for being focused on affairs of this lifetime only, but thinking of a succession of lifetimes in which we will go from one lifetime to the next, attaining states of freedoms and leisures, our perspective will become broader. And through that, we'll also be able to, on the side, accomplish the purpose or the leisures of this lifetime as well. Now, in some sense, you can say that if your sole focus is only on preparing food for today, you will not be able to look at what you need to do tomorrow or how you can accomplish a greater thing tomorrow. So we think of a long-term approach. We think of a succession of lifetimes in which we want to attain states of freedom, states of leisures. And on the side, through that, positive states in this life will also come to be accomplished.
Terda we pay to me nilans and senders on the town of Chaos, that Trubadi yeah,
so Shannon is asking, in advantage number 3, the verse, those who go for refuge give up the human body and obtain that of a god. This seems to indicate that Buddhists create the causes to be reborn as a god, as opposed to taking a human rebirth suitable for creating the cause for liberation and enlightenment. Is that the case? So let's go back to this section. So today we started with this. All right. Those who have gone for refuge to the Buddha will not go to the lower rebirths. They give up the human body and obtain that of a god. Dila Penyun Sumbarwa, Penyun Sumbadila Karesungyoresena Kanda Sangi Kapsonwa, Deda Nindo Domigur, Mi Luni Pansun Panesu, Deda Hai Luto Tupo Sashdoa. Then the date of la Salontoina Tejo Milron Bache Tola Salama Tambache di Pang Ani Hailu Togires Nechik Sungres. Chesandi Matso Hailu Toyurve Ma Togatso Topjarves, Hailu Matso Topjarves, Melu Topjares, Candichinas.
Resland is Milu and Mondol had a me compandi Dubjaji Chagados, Tobjaji Chagados. Any Tangazu Dungan Dugumeza, Pena, and Dunga Delaya, Lude Semdi Yungudas, Lude Yashudi, and me Ludele, and lighting Lude the chair Yovanza, and Tindi Dungi Jimbana, and dear and Conjolateni. Jamdolatin Druguris, Songuyores.
Well, in general, we can say that we aspire for high states of rebirth as humans, or as in a godly state of existence, in a sense that we want to avoid suffering or pain, and we want to attain happiness and well-being. So in general, high states of rebirth afford that. But then if you're seeking the best suitable working basis, a body that you can use for your practice, indeed being born as a human being gives you the best ability to put it into practice. So in that sense, we not only we do not aspire only for a general good state of rebirth, we aspire for something that is more specific, more particular, something that will afford a good working basis for a practice, and that is as a human being.
Yeah.
So iPhone is asking, I guess this is Paul. So Geshe, with regards to not having time to practice and being caught up in the affairs of this life, it seems the economic system in the world today requires people to compete and to work more to afford a place to live, etc. At the same time, we have so many more distractions. Is it harder in this time to find a balance where we have enough resources, but also the time to practice the Dhamma? Or is it more that we are lacking merit and engaging in more laziness and distraction? Tadila nyamnen jegi nyamnen jelon rangi mares to your mares minde de chik lagirwa. Ni chesan mitse di tundal shencha chewaina. Mitse di la shencha chewaina ani nyamnen je dutu shida rangi marwas. Takiran samna tensan zambulingi netu di tewaina penjogi netu drodangi netu kande chi tewaina pesher ngato lega manga chego gre ani chigi chi la dendur chia den sogo gres ani then it's ani kambaraya kalarali de la droson chia tango gres cheza kiran samna dilatene ngato mitse di tundala shenja shukcha den dogerves nyamnenje dutun neuro dogerves so di zambulingin penjo jetang lega jetan dilatene den yongirves yamena kiran samna ngato sonam metang sonam mebekengi so lelo tan nayan shuchewa dogeres kiran samnas
당해 sambay나 nganzu zambling ne chundele tene 아니지 강바 제도 체야 아니지 비게 또그 제도 체야 디 뇽르탄 거래 samsam다 서로드스라 미투 nganzu ngone zambling ne chun 통바이나 따디 뇽르 직 마땅바이나 nganzu zambling de nyenga 차우슈 차도 서리 samsam 아니 ngal 초디어레스 마도 담미 강가두 시도 땅에 디 마르마다는 디그사마르 삼성기 초딩알라 자원인 문도스
제네 그런 사람 gyumten di ngato nyamnen chegi dutun mebagi gyumten sodi ken gyu ken sodi pendulaten de yongerbes.
디마레스
Well, to begin with, Geshe reckons that when we look at the situation in the world at the moment, if you think that sorry, I'll go back to that. So Geshe reckons that without reducing our seeking after having better housing, better food, bigger houses, more food, better food, and so forth, without reducing the pursuit after them, we're going to end up in a very dangerous situation, for we are living in the world in which the resources are limited. So then the question is it that we find it so difficult to do? Is it that we find so little time to practice because of mainly or only because of the way that the economy of the world is working in the present? Geshe reckons that it's not only that.
bena dangazu tseri yagi drondige chedan tseri yagi res right ina tseri yagi drawal deni mitsu dongom cher tansha goras ra dongom cher chagba cher ani ransom cher drondige mokham badi chagdam mosong chigor mado pigi 튕긴 벤줄 찍부지기 아주 모kham binela savni jorgyo mares ra mit namju yongi samtan 튕긴 짐바나 튕긴 강요버디 벤줄 강요버디 아니 수수 취치야 짬마세 뭐셴발이야 취치야기 아니 튕긴라 땅 투고라스 이나 차다 모습 디 땅 투고만다 디 라신 이가래 누구도 asra.
We live in a time in which there are significant scientific, there is significant scientific progress. And yet it seems that we are experiencing a greater degree of dissatisfaction. We are not satisfied with what we have. Our attachment is still growing stronger and stronger. And so long as we allow that to happen for a greater degree of dissatisfaction to become greater and greater, to have an increasing degree of attachment present in our mind, we will not have the freedom that we seek. We will still lack freedom. If we do make sure that we reduce the level of dissatisfaction, we become more satisfied, more satiated with what we have at the moment, we will find not only time to practice the Dhamma, but we'll also find it time to teach this practice to others. But so long as we do not reduce our own afflictive states of mind, anger, attachment, and ignorance, that will not happen at all. First of all, we need to start with reducing our afflictive states of mind.
디 베제 빼야고 제도스라 아니 베나 사이 미긴 은시 영인 진바나 칸은 drogo 말 잠블리 에 뭐그 잠블리 제와 자타 동다디야 통고라스 네서 당간주 사이 미긴 은시 맹해질이야 아니 투자도서 고시탁sen도서 사이 미긴 은시 sabro서 해도서 가서가 통도야지 어디 베제 체니 아니 잠블리야 비 아니 롭종 때투야를 소바 로바 체투야 니수 땅투야 배지 야산지는 제도고도 왔을 때 매방간주 배지 신줄로질이야 땅 아니 퇴배 망부 쇼치냐 베나 미치려야 뭐를 지금 야차 야타만 디고다 니숨 딘디냐 안 딜 때니 아니 잠블링 코유 촐라 쇼치 땅 거라서 어두 지원디 땅간주 빼 아니 테스팅 되촌 초시 마지바나 잠블링 요요 조도서에 삼성 그 로츠 레고거데냐 안주 딜레 신기요 말았어 디 수수 남주고 만다 말았어
So we are living in a world in which there is a great scientific progress, and we can put it to use in a good way. In some sense, we can say that drawing similarities between the progress in scientific fields with what Buddhism speaks of in certain areas. In certain teachings, we can develop clairvoyance or different types of clairvoyances. Like, for example, seeing different realities around the world, hundreds of thousands of different types of realities with the development of clairvoyance. So we haven't been able, or at least on a personal level, we can say that we haven't reached that stage of development yet. But in some sense, we can say that science is something that is similar to clairvoyance, understanding more realities, a greater understanding of situations around the world, and we can put that to use in a good way, in a positive way. Like, for example, we can use that to improve the education level in different places around the world. We can use that in order to be of benefit to others. That can be done, but rather than doing that, we are often using our scientific understanding in a mistaken way. We end up accumulating personally more and more possessions. Like, for example, you might think that if you have one car, should be more than enough. But sometimes people have 2 or 3 cars. This is just one example in that we have that idea that what we have is not enough. We need more than that. And as we said, we live in a world in which resources are limited. So with that increasing sense of dissatisfaction, thinking that we don't have enough, we bring about a lot of distractions on the world. So the world can quickly come to an end with that degree of dissatisfaction, or opposite to that, when we develop that sense of satisfaction, then we can easily develop our positive qualities.
and chunzin che tuyad pe kala khabu pena sanjin jigden du chambati ani kawa mambu parlaya ani sachi mado sanjin jigden du chungyo marastra ta sanjin jigden du chene ani sanji jesule lamngin dia ani nyonyo shuch chaya di kares laundi manzu ge pigi 다 야차 고주 고고 다차 고주 고고 겨라야 차다 모습 고랑 게 칸데 여반자 아니 지 대단 톰바지 게 아니 깨져지다 남규직 마덴바이나 콜라야 아니 인트레스트 라로 거라스라 디 메디 디 냥그 요마르다 디 마냐 바이나 테네 차다 모섬 아니 칠칠칠로 아니 타마디고 마마용데 아디고 춘이 차고레스.
But it's easier said than done. In that, first of all, we say that the arisal of Buddha in this world is really rare. It happens only once in many eons. And even if a Buddha comes to this world, still it's hard to find a lot of people that are interested in studying and training and following the teachings of the Buddha. You can say that by and large, most of us are controlled by anger, attachment, and ignorance. So in order to gain control over the mind, to not allow the mind to come under the influence of anger, attachment, and ignorance, first of all, we need to develop interest in the teachings of the Buddha. We need to make a mind open to the teachings of the Buddha, and that becomes quite hard. So without being able to do so, of course, we will quickly lose interest in the teachings of the Buddha.
that the imbayna that semshuk maja chechine sosusu ngone ani semshuk majan lodab kechene ani pen kanto chidochin royada yakshu deres ro yakshu dire dindi jig mezi ketu bana ani mezi chima dia ani dugu yungu mares ro tigaje gyatamba.
So don't lose courage, don't become disheartened. Rather than that, become determined to be of benefit in whatever way you can to yourself and others. And if you do that, not only you will improve your situation in this life, but also you will also be advancing your situation in future lifetimes.
Mi duja chigdla che sosu duja chin ro devana dur drive modo pendo jasi yadam yo marasta di samlo shishani ani sosu ngone 장부 장장 댐바 된장 아니 룽아 있음 라야지 셴라야 펜토 투에 니바 칸여바디 니바 때는 줘바이나 아니 로데슈 깁슈 아니 깨워 치마이나 디 야자야다 펜토 여바지 어 딘리 송도 아스라.
If rather than following this positive path, if you follow someone that is teaching you negative behavior and you yourself end up behaving negatively, of course, it will not be of benefit to you. So what we want to do at the very least is to develop an honest and truthful approach, to do whatever we can in order to make the most out of this lifetime. And if we at least aspire to do that, then it is guaranteed 100% certain, Geshe, things that will be of benefit to us in this and in future lifetimes.
Thank you so much.
Shall we leave it here for today? All right, so let's do some dedications. We will recite the final Lamrim dedication. So we'll put it on the screen in a second. For my two collections, Vasa's space that I've amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eyes blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path that I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with my heart going up with great compassion in whatever directions the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined. May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and may the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by even these graded paths of enlightenment, completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all humans and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtues practices, may always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.